All right, let's talk about Nvidia. This is a company that didn't just see the future coming, they built it. It's an absolutely wild story, and we're going to break it all down. Let's jump in. Okay, look at this number, $4 trillion. Let that sink in for a second. That's the projected value for Nvidia in 2025. I mean, that's a number that's it's almost meaningless. It's so big. We're talking about one of the most valuable companies ever? So you hear that number and you've got to ask, how? I mean, this is a company that was on the brink of going bankrupt, from almost zero to 4 trillion. How in the world does that happen? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. All right, so to really get this, we have to go back, way back. Back to the beginning when Nvidia was just this little startup, you know? They had a cool idea, sure, but they were basically fighting for survival in a super, super tough market. And the drama starts right out of the gate. They get founded in '93, and by the late '90s, they are so close to bankruptcy. It's almost over. But then, 1999, they launched the GeForce 256, and it's a total game changer. I mean, it doesn't just save them, it turns the tables so completely that just a year later, they're buying up one of their biggest competitors. And you really have to understand, nothing was guaranteed here. The graphics card market back then, it was an absolute bloodbath. You had these huge players like 3DFX and ATI just dominating. Nvidia, they were the small fry, the underdog. And honestly, all the smart money was on them getting completely wiped out. Okay, so they survived. But this is where the story goes from just survival to, well, legendary. Because they didn't just scrape by. They made 2 huge, almost crazy bets. And these 2 bets, they basically ended up shaping the next 20 years of tech. So, that number 1, the GeForce 256. Now, the chip itself was amazing, for sure, but the real genius move, it was marketing. They came up with a new name for it. They called it a GPU, a graphics processing unit. They didn't just make a new product, they literally created a whole new category that they, and only they, could lead. So, what exactly is a GPU? Think of it like this. A normal computer chip, a CPU, is like one super smart professor who can solve really hard problems one by one. A GPU, on the other hand, is like an entire classroom of students who can each solve a simple math problem at the exact same time. That's called parallel processing, and it's absolutely perfect for the millions of tiny calculations needed to draw a 3D world in a video game. And this led to a massive trillion-dollar question. I mean, what if you could use all that parallel processing power for something more than just making games look cool? This question, this right here, was the seed for their second and arguably most important bet ever. And the answer they came up with was this thing called CUDA. And here's the key part. CUDA wasn't hardware. It wasn't another chip. It was software. And it was, without a doubt, the single move that unlocked everything that came next. The idea behind CUDA was actually kind of simple, but totally revolutionary. It was basically a universal translator. It let any programmer, not just graphics experts, tap into that massive parallel power of the GPU for any kind of intense calculation. All of a sudden, that gaming chip in your PC was a mini supercomputer, ready for anything. And let's be super clear, this was a massive gamble, a huge risk. They spent millions and millions of dollars and years of their best engineers' time building the software for a market that, well, it didn't exist yet. At all. It was like they were forging this incredibly complex key years before anyone had even designed the lock it would open. And then, the lock appeared. This is where the bet pays off, and boy does it pay off. That big, complicated problem that needed their special key, it turned out to be artificial intelligence. And it just set off this incredible chain reaction. Think about it. Step 1, Nvidia patiently builds CUDA back in 2006. Step 2, fast forward to 2012, and some AI researchers use it to train a model called AlexNet. And step 3, AlexNet doesn't just do well, it destroys the competition. And just like that, the entire modern AI revolution was kicked into high gear. That moment with AlexNet was the proof. It showed the world that these GPUs, these gaming chips, were actually the perfect engine for AI. Suddenly, that crazy long-shot bet on CUDA wasn't crazy anymore. It was genius. And it put Nvidia right at the epicenter of the biggest technological shift in decades. Which brings us to right now. Because of that single bet, Nvidia today isn't just a company that makes chips for gamers. No way. They are the fundamental engine, the power plant, really, for pretty much our entire modern world. I mean, just think about it for a second. What are the biggest things happening in tech? Artificial intelligence. Yep. Data centers in the cloud? Absolutely. Self-driving cars? You bet. Robotics? Drug discovery? Even the metaverse? Every single one of those revolutionary fields is built on top of Nvidia's hardware. And that, right there, is why all the giants, we're talking Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, they are all desperately lining up to buy as many Nvidia chips as they can get their hands on. Nvidia basically became the sole arms dealer in a global AI arms race, and business is booming. But it's not all smooth sailing from here, right? The story's not over. When you're the king of the hill, everybody wants a shot at the crown. And Nvidia is now facing a whole new set of problems that come with being on top. For one, you've got competition heating up. Big time. Old rivals like AMD and Intel are coming for them, not to mention a whole bunch of scrappy new AI startups. Then there's the whole geopolitical mess, especially with export rules between the US and China. And on top of all that, they have this good problem, which is still a huge problem. How do you physically make enough chips for a world that wants way more than you can possibly produce? So when you step back and look at this whole incredible journey, what's the big takeaway here? What's the lesson from Nvidia's story? It really comes down to this. This was never just about the hardware. Anyone can try to build a faster chip. Nvidia's real genius was building the entire ecosystem around the chip. The software, the platform, the community of developers. They built a moat that is now just incredibly, incredibly wide and difficult for competitors to cross. At the end of the day, it's a story about pure resilience, about almost failing and then fighting your way back. It's about having the guts to take these huge company-betting risks. And really, it's about the vision of their CEO, Jensen Huang, who consistently bet on the future he saw coming, long before anyone else did. And so that leaves us with one last question to chew on. They made a huge bet on gaming, and they won. Then they made an even bigger bet on AI and won on a scale nobody thought was possible. So the real question now is, what's their next big bet going to be? And what new future will be built on top of it?